Hello, my name is Todd, and this is Mecklenburg County GIS Polaris video series. This video is titled Map Display, so let's go ahead and get started. And what I'd like to go over is the many options of doing map display. I will be covering the base maps for Polaris. I will be covering the overlays for Polaris. I'll also be covering the labeling options that are available in Polaris. And lastly, we'll show the legend capabilities. So let's start with the base maps. And what we mean by base maps is what we've done is we've created a series of base maps, much like you see in Bing Maps and MapQuest and Google Maps, where you see street networks, points of interest, those kind of things. We've done something very similar to that. So when you access these maps at the different zoom levels, you'll see that those maps appear very fast. And that's because we're using a tiling system in order to do that. So if you are used to the old county's GIS real estate system, you could definitely see a difference in the performance of the two. This one is a lot faster because we're using that newer technology. So if you look in the upper right hand side, you'll see 4 buttons up here for the different base maps, and the one that we currently have turned on right now is the streets. So you can see those, you can see that information, or those, you can see that map display coming up, and you can see as you go in closer, the parcel line starts showing up. And we also have the aerials loaded. So if I click on the aerials base map, it's going to show me nothing but the aerial photography, and that's it, which might be something that you might be only wanting to see, or you might want to be able to do a screenshot, or you might want to crop out an area and go put it in something else. But if you do notice under the aerials map, there is a timeline slider bar. So you can see we have up to 6 years of aerial photography, which is pretty good. So we actually have aerial photography going from 2014, which is today, all the way back to 2009. And you can navigate through those by just clicking either the ends of the time bar, or you can actually use your mouse and slide it directly to the year that you want. So that's pretty cool. So we've also had the hybrid base map. So the hybrid is going to actually bring together the street information, the road names. It's going to bring all the parcels. You'll see the highway and the interstate shields. It's going to bring all of that information, and it's going to merge them together with the aerial photography, which is probably going to be mostly used by everybody. And we also still have the time slider bar, so you can see the actual change of various areas and such like that. So that's pretty cool. And the last base map that we do have is the topo. So we tried to simulate this much like a USGS map, where you can see the tree canopy, you can see the open space, you can also see kind of the topography. You can see the 10-foot topo lines, which you can see right here, for example, and then the dashed lines are the actual 2-foot topo lines. So really good precise topography information, so you can get a depiction of the lay of the land. If you're interested in buying some property, you can tell from this map, you know, where it slopes off, and or vice versa. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go click back on streets to go back to the street map. So the next thing that we have is overlays. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to my favorite location, because I want to show you some of the map overlays that we can put on the map. So anytime that you search for a property, it's going to bring you up the property information screen, which I'll show you later in a video, but let's focus right now on the overlays. So if I click on that, I get a series of overlays. The first group is labels, and I'll go over that in a minute. The second one is boundaries. So there's different kind of boundary information we can put on the map. Environmental, land development, historical, transportation, and then there's a series of other different layers that we can turn on. So let's try to pick some out of each different section, just so you have an idea of what you can turn on. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to know what county commissioner district this piece of property fell into. Well, if I want to check that on, it'll display the county commissioner district 3. And then if I want to turn it off, I can turn it off. Let's say I wanted to know what zip code this property's in. Well, it's in zip code 28215. Now let's look up some environmental information. If you're looking at buying a piece of property and maybe looking at building on the property, you definitely want to know if property's in a floodplain or not. So let's say, for example, with this property, I wanted to see about the FEMA floodplains. Well, I can check that layer on, and you can see pretty much this property falls within a floodplain, so there's definitely going to be some restrictions in development and that kind of thing. There's some other data layers that water quality uses for stormwater management and water quality management, and they're called post-construction buffers and swim buffers. So if you're interested in seeing that data, you can turn that on, and you can see if the property that you're looking at is going to be impacted by those particular restrictions as well. And if you're interested to see what stream watershed you fall into, you can turn that on, which is pretty cool. One of the newest additions to our overlays is we've implemented some land development layers. And this is going to be very interesting probably to the real estate community in regards to seeing what kind of building activity is going on in the county. So let's say, for instance, I'm just going to go turn on everything. If I'm interested in commercial buildings that are in progress or commercial buildings that have been completed, I'm going to look for single family in progress and completed. I don't see any in this area, but I'm going to go ahead and turn all of these layers on. So you may actually need to zoom out just to see where these things pop up, because somewhere in the county you may be in an area where there's really no development going on, particularly if it's a very well established neighborhood. So you can see here I'm zoomed out. You can see up here on Old Concord Road there's quite a bit of activity right here, so if I wanted to go up here and zoom in, I could. And you can see here's a subdivision that's being built out as we speak. So very, very useful information to see exactly what kind of land development activity is going on. So I'm going to go ahead and check all of these off, and we'll continue looking up stuff. So I'm going to go back to the property details because I still have my property selected, and I'm actually going to hit this nice little button up here called Zoom To, and if I click that, it's going to send me right back to where I was, which is really cool. I'm going to go back to the layers list and let's go over some other stuff. So we've got CATS, bus routes and stops. You can see that right here. Got some other data layers down here. One of the things that might be of interest to the real estate community is sales by deed year. So if I turn that layer on, you can see all the different sales that have occurred in that neighborhood, and they're all color coded. And I believe we talked about the legend, so anytime that you turn a data layer on here, you can go over to the legend and you can see that color, that symbology, and what it depicts. So in this regards, all of the deed year sales are color coded based off the different year. So I'm going to go back to the layer list and we'll turn that off. Go back to property details, and I'm going to zoom to just to go ahead and zoom back. So the next thing I want to show you is the labeling. We used to have the labeling set up on the top right corner of the map, and it made it kind of hard for people to navigate around to find it and to use it. So we've actually put the labeling over in the layers list. So we call it a layers label listing. So now if you're interested in turning on lot dimensions, you can check that on. If you want to turn on the address points, you can turn that on. Parcel IDs, you can turn that on. We also have business locations. If you want to see the location of various businesses on the map and their names, you can turn that on. And then points of interest, so such as a medic station, police station, post office, elementary school, those kind of features. Those fall under the points of interest. And if you look at the legend, this is what you're presented if you turn those particular features on. And you're probably not really seeing this right now. I probably need to zoom out, but you'll see a lot more of that on the map once I turn off some of this other labeling. You can see the churches and that information. And like I said, you can turn the legend on anytime that you want to see what those symbols are on the map. So that's pretty much it for map display. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next.